Hello, it's Lee. How are you? Well, this video is about, becoming more aware of higher dimensional beings and extraterrestrials and such. Those words are a bit broad, but maybe we'll make an attempt to cover them a little bit and perhaps help one or two people to have a bigger awareness and even a chance for contact. Now, first of all, I would like to say that it's a tricky subject because I don't know where each individual person is at, so I'm trying to be mindful of a broad variety of audience, whether I get just a few hundred views or more, depending, but the fact is I'm trying to, have a respect for where you might be at. Some of you may even know more than I. What I'm trying to do here, however, is just simply make a suggestion or two and speak a bit about my own experience with it and see if that might help. First of all, we're in a world that is, especially in the Western world, we're always about physical proof, tangible things, external things, but more and more of us are indeed linking with the nature of being, and this is so important. If we understand, even going back in history, from the Greek philosophers, but even earlier, was starting to have the understanding of the world of ideas, as was stated in Platonic philosophy, for example. But this doesn't belong to just one school. This is a worldwide thing. So, many years before Plato and whomever else, there was great yogis and thinkers from India or China or wherever in the whole planet. People that had time to think and study the nature of being, realize that if you examine your own self, your own being, it goes into a great ever-nowness, an eternal presence, where innately, potentially available, always, all the time, are all sorts of things. So if we find ourselves in a particular incarnation, a particular face and country and this and that, this is all, in a manner of speaking, an illusion, because it is just a temporary piece of clothing. But is to understand from the world of ideas all the possibilities. So when we can remember the nature of being and differentiate being from thing, which I always like to say often, being is, a mode of being, and thing is that it could be an externalized thing. Anything you could think of, any mode of being that you have experienced, and the depths of it, and the potentials of it, it's similar to all of us. So people can use the word God or the source or the universe, the isness, the all, the now. It doesn't really matter. These are individual preferences. But the reason why I'm bringing this up at the beginning of the video is to say the importance of understanding the world of ideas from the point of mind itself. And from that point, as stepping into modes of being, having a relationship with things. Thought it was first, and then a manifestation. But really, I don't want to say first because it's just a nowness. So in that sense, I'll have to correct myself, because I must even be able to say, truthfully, that even things are eternally available all the time. So, saying it in this funny roundabout manner, I think that you understand what I'm trying to say. So, when we have a planet like this, a manifested 3D world, it is so much more than a 3D. The 3D world is much less real than the spirit world because of the temporary nature of it. It seems solid and it seems more real at first glance. Sure, it's tangible, you can feel pleasure, pain, and this and that, and death and is very real, life is very real, right? Even just from a body perspective. But really, that's just an illusion. The physical is the least real of all worlds, and I'll suggest strongly for anyone to understand that, to meditate upon that, think about it for a second or two, or an hour, or a whole week, or whatever you like, or your whole life. Think about that. The 3D world is the least real of all worlds. When we understand that, when we accept it and embrace it, then the world of being and the idea of the concept of things and mind and becoming what you thought, as the great Buddhist and the Hindu teachers have been saying for a couple thousand years or more, is just that. So, saying this, we cannot think of a higher level being or an ET as being purely physical. Certainly they're not. That is a lower nature, that is secondary or or even further down the line, third, fourth, fifth step down, or even more. So from the level of being, and this may seem funny talk for some people, but I'm really trying to build it up in a backwards and then forwards manner, like a yin-yang, to say, understand the origin, if you want to use that word, and understand the present, and then you can switch them around, like the infinity symbol, or like the yin-yang, to understand that just the thought itself links you to that reality. You don't have to go there, you don't have to have a proof, you just have to know, and this is my point now, you have to know in your mind that this is true, and this is, because it has the potential to be real, in some reality, it can indeed be real. So that's Philosophy 101 for the world of ideas and thought. So, one of the great sayings of all time is, truth is not dependent on any particular human being. A lot of us can have the understanding that, oh well, we're humble enough to realize, oh, there's more than this. And some people are still wrestling with the concept because they still have too much of a focus on the small ego self. But it takes time to, well, it takes time to find the time to just even embark, to start on the first steps of the nature of being. What am I? Ask yourself that. What am I? A lot of you have a much deeper understanding. You know what I'm talking about. It goes way deep. It goes way now. It's all things and all time. So, saying this, to realize one's own potential is to realize the potential of anyone else, any other thing. And it takes steps and increments, yes, to go back to from whence we came, or to put it that way. But it is not above and beyond our nature that we can never achieve it, retrieve it. So, with knowing, now let me put it this way, soul evolution, if you're thinking of a soul entity going over a course of time, and humanity, even just of this one planet for simple purposes, going from how we were some thousands of years ago to where we are now, there's been a lot of development. There's still some silly things, there's still some violence and some intolerance and things like this, but a lot less. You know, you don't have intertribal warfare so much anymore, for example, a country divided against itself so much. You'll have it in bits and pieces, but it's not like a nationwide thing where, you know, tribe versus tribe, this clan fighting that clan. Most of that is gone, is far, far beyond us. And even nation versus nation is far beyond us. So we've developed a lot, even just here on the planet. So what I'm saying is, by simply using mind and the mode of thought for the mode of being, is to make the leap. And some of you already can. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You're already way up there. But I'm saying, if we have achieved so much here, and our thoughts can say, yes, I can go in a spaceship and travel around, and that should and could be indeed our future, why not? We're already flying airplanes and things like that, for example, and have satellites, for example. So all the things that we would have said are sci-fi are not sci-fi at all. And just because we didn't achieve it here in this particular planet, in a particular moment, as far as many might know, then it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist elsewhere. It doesn't mean that because it is not in our reality, that it's not someone else's reality, simply based on the fact that it belongs to the universal mind. So wherever some beings are on the path, whatever planet, whatever development that they've achieved, and we are all one anyway, but it is to say, we are achieving something. And the very thought itself can prove the reality. That's again the point that I'm going to keep trying to say. So, if we think of this 200, 300, 150 years ago, but let's just say, going back in time, let's just say that the Earth humans visited, and not that humanity as a whole is not quite worthy yet, not quite there yet. Too much violence and competition and jealousies and things and whatnot. But let's just say some of us were finding ourselves somehow worthy enough to take a trip, to go to another planet, and the people there, whether they looked similar or not, but the people there had less development, for example, then if we showed them a camera or a TV or a flashlight or a phone or something like that, they get some kind of crazy magic, they bow down to us like gods, right? And this is exactly what happened on this planet at certain various times. When entities from higher planes of existence, physical or not physical, or in between, there's many dimensions, or able to manifest and then unmanifest, to use those words. Entities that did that did indeed seem like gods with fancy, powerful magics and all sorts of things. But really it's just a higher stage of development that is innately potentially available to the so-called lower level individual or group of individuals. So by just thought, not being influenced by television, because TV, movies, they want to show the extremes. They want people to think, the governments of the world, the military, they know very well that extraterrestrials are quite real, but they have their own limitations. Where they lack spiritual understanding and development of the mode of being is where they cut themselves out. They decapitate the higher truth, and they might see things in just an external, basic way, but not relating it deeply to the self. Maybe some do. Some personnel or some retired personnel are very deep in the spirit, and they understand the extraterrestrial phenomenon, and they have been even military persons. But anyway, it's not always to give authority to those go, oh, they know it, therefore. But that's just it. A lot of people are waiting for that authority from a speech or a public announcement. Oh, it's very real. So people are talking about disclosure. Will it come from our own human governments? Will it come from them? Well, I think it already has happened. It's been happening for thousands of years. Because each and every single one of us can experience those entities, those beings, those lovely, lovely beings. And all it takes is, see, some people experience without even trying, without even thinking, without even believing. They see something extraordinary and they go, well, now I'm a believer because it happened to me. And that's not just with ET phenomenon, for example, but it could be any spiritual thing, missing object phenomenon, or ghosts and spirits, different things. Oh, now I experience it, now I know for sure. Now no matter what anyone tells me, I know it, that is true. Whether a book or a movie said it, or this person denies it, or whatever, I know for a certainty that it is real. I did experience it. So saying that, people that looked for it and people that didn't look for it have experienced the ET phenomenon, absolutely, for thousands of years. For all time, actually. So we're always ecocentric, me, myself, and I, my country, my city, my planet, yeah, us versus them. It's all nonsense. Because life is life, and life is one always. So we're always connected at any time. If you meet an entity from another world, they could not be that innately different. They could be superior or inferior, but they could not be that innately different. You would have either positive or negative experience with them. You'd have a loving, friendly, peaceful talk, or not so much. And see, right, no matter what you could think of, whatever possibility anyone could think of a different being, different world, oh, it's entirely different, but it's not entirely different. It cannot be entirely different. No matter what you meet, no matter what you have a communication with, regardless, there's attraction, repulsion, there's a good experience, there's a bad, there's pleasure, pain, something like that. So meditate upon that and we'll understand the nature of mode of being and thing. So entities from what we see from different planets, but it's belonging to one universe. We're always thinking about a particular time and place. But when we think of nowness and the all nature of being, then we realize that it's just different stages on the path and different locales, different locations, that consciousness is having an experience. Consciousness itself divided into many, literally countless cells. Consciousness divided into countless cells, having all sorts of experiences, planet-wide, universe-wide. So we're not that different from each other, we're just different levels of understanding and growth on the path, different perceptions, different concepts, different realizations, but it's not that different. So, to get back to the point, higher dimensional beings are more than happy to show that they're real, but they're not on demand. That's a very important point. People say, if God's real, prove it. I've even seen people write silly comments like, if God is real, he'll strike me down right now. Oh, see, it didn't happen. God's not real. That's just as silly as me writing, if your father is real, he'll kill me right now. Oh, it didn't happen, you have no dad, right? It's or whatever. Or whatever. It could be anything. So, this is a funny example. These are true stories, and these are real comments. But anyway, I'm not even trying to make fun of someone. That's their level of understanding. So be it. Amitabha, Amitabha. Now, these beings can and will be contacted by anybody, but they are not ones to be aggressive or abrasive about it. There can be demonic experiences and negative soul entities. Like, just as we can have a negative experience with somebody in a body, having physicality, that person's a bully, they're violent, they're very selfish, whatever the case may be. even as we can experience that person in a body, and you can think of hundreds of examples right away, but those entities, when they leave their body, they can be experienced in the same manner. So you can have a negative experience, and I've had that myself, and many people have. But there are also good experiences with friendly beings, and friendly beings tend to not be about fear and threatening and things like that, but they're be more gentle, be more friendly, be more playful. They don't want to scare you. They can take great lengths to not scare you. When I first started becoming, just for my own little example of myself, when I first started to become a mystic around the age of 20 or so, I had the great spirit of the world shyly but pointedly proved to me that it was very real. And then different entities started to give me different experiences, and I know for a fact that they're all very real. You can say angels, if you want to use that word, or bodhisattvas. Many cultures can use different words, but they are very real. I swear to it, I've experienced it. Many remarkable things. There's a negative side of entities that are not on a higher vibration that you can experience also. So you have different polarities, right? Again, we're talking about positive and negative. So anywhere in the entire universe, you'll have the positive and the negative. So as for the extraterrestrials, if we're talking about physical ones and interdimensional ones, but if we're talking about physical ones, then they are simply at a higher stage than what we are currently at. Those who are incarnating in this planet are at a slightly lesser stage than a physical ET, for example. ET just simply meaning not belonging to the Terra, a different planet. So are they here? Are they around? Absolutely. And we are being coaxed into, and after a long time, prepared for and developing into our graduation from this type of planet with its short lives, its violence, its great experiences of pleasure and pain in very lower mundane ways, very thick, the harsh 3D heaviness, and things become more refined and finer and greater freedoms because there's less dependency on, let's just say, use it as a metaphor, less dependency on rock and metal, and more cooperation with being and thing working in more fine ways, more easily manipulated. But that's a bad word, because I don't want to put a connotation of a forceful, like a rape type situation, but I'm saying indeed it is a cooperation with being and thing in a much higher, finer way, harmonized and much more positive, much more user-friendly than what is had on this planet. But we are being prepared into it. So when we see movies and shows and stuff about, I'm saying for people that didn't see things with their own eyes, and many of us have, and I certainly have, when you see things with your own eyes, you don't need any proof from a book or a movie. But people that have not experienced it themselves, then, or to their knowledge, but more and more of us, the whole planet's being prepared. But when you see a fictional show of spaceships and planetary travel and scientific exploration and different things, it's because it is our very own future, our very reality. And even it could have been our past at a long time ago, and it'll be a perpetual cycle of going from great enlightenment and then choosing to go back to simplified things. And that's my own understanding of how the universe works. The ebb and flow of things, the exhale and the inhale of all things. The cycle, the infinity dance, the yin and the yang. So the ET phenomenon, it's certainly real. If you're open to it and you want to experience it, you can't demand, you can't go outside just 1 or 2 nights and you didn't see it and you doubt it. But I know it's frustrating because we're hungry to know. But you have to have a bit of patience. Sometimes the timing has to be very right. Sometimes there has to be, you have to be ready, but also they have to be ready. And they have to be aware that, you'd like to have a sighting or an interaction. And sometimes they're seen and they may not even be aware of who's seeing them. But if they show themselves, make themselves present, they're aware that they can be seen. They're not stupid. They understand the potential of being seen. They do it on purpose, as it were, so that more people can have the understanding of that reality is true. So, by saying all that, if you desire it, you can talk to them, because each person has a guardian angel or a bodhisattva that's around them at all times, a watcher or a companion that's there to assist, but not in a vicious way, to observe and to coax, to make gentle, subtle suggestions to help us for development, but never forceful. Free will has to be respected always. Think about that. If you're someone that's a real friend and you're looking after someone, you're there for their safety, for their benefit, but you respect their free will. If you're dealing, for those of us who are parents, when you're dealing with a child, for example, or a younger mind, or less developed level of being or mode of thought in a particular moment, then you are trying to deal with it for that person's understanding, but also, yeah, there's right and wrong. Now, we're here in the universe experiencing karma, the effects of karma anyway. So that's for us to meditate upon. But what I'm saying is to be aware of being surrounded at any time by good friends, and to realize a connection with those friends and those in the sky. Because when you have a higher level development, see, for all we know, at a higher development, a higher vibration, people talk about fourth dimension, fifth dimension. These are words. If you want to use them, that's fine. It's up to you. I don't know what to call it myself. It's just a higher level. Then perhaps at the higher level, even if you have a body, you can see spirits and those in a body as easily as we just see people, just like that, solid things. So at a higher development, it's easier for them to communicate than it would be for us. But even to have that idea means that this can be a reality. We can get into it. We can step into it. So, my suggestions before, I don't want to make the video too long. I understand people's attention spans and such like that, but I understand that there's lots of information out there on extraterrestrial and the Watchers. I recommend the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees, books that were in the Christian and Judeo-Christian Bible that were taken out. Although the beautiful Ethiopian people kept the Book of Jubilees in their Bible to the present day, which is pretty cool. But that gives a little light, sheds a little light on the nature of the Watchers and angels and ETs. Where's the connection? Because in many cases it's the same thing. Some cases not, but in some cases the same thing. Talk about the fallen and different things like this. But that's one ancient source you can look at. But a lot of quote-unquote ancient religions and spiritual texts do have much to say about this from any culture, any era. So those can be looked into. People that want to have modern books and videos, I would strongly recommend a wonderful woman who just passed away recently, Dolores Cannon. She was a fantastic lady, a great sage, and she was a hypnotherapist, and she delved deep into people and under a trance, and many wonderful things came out. So just that, people know a lot of the main guys. You can talk about Robert Dean, these people, David Wilcock, all these lovely people. And you should be able to tell when someone's sincere or not. They should be friendly demeanor, they should have some innocence about them. But again, it's to be cautious, because even someone that intends well could speak an accidental lie, meaning not intentional. Some people lie intentionally, but we're all guilty of speaking untruths. There's a truth, an untruth, and a lie, right? Differentiate. So we're all guilty of making untruths unintentionally. But so it's to weigh it out. When you look at many stories, many examples and true stories, and believing that they are. And when you compare many of them and there seems to be a big picture and you can connect the dots, then it becomes wonderful, you can solidify it. And then when you couple that with your own experiences, then your truth gets deeper, the reality is stronger, then you have much less doubt, much less confusion and worry. Because there's still a lot of people that think, oh, aliens are all bad, they're all manipulating us, but that's the mode of paranoia and the lack of understanding. The lack of understanding leads to fear and paranoia. Real understanding and knowledge leads to piercing the veil, many veils actually. So those who are in the mode of fear still have a us versus them mentality. They live it on the earth, they're going to live it out in space. That's why earth humans are not quite ready to go out there, because there's still us versus them. If there's still nation versus nation here, what are we going to do out there? Some of us are ready to go out there. Some of us have been out there. Right? But some people are not quite ready. There's still some primitive nature. We're still a developing world. But we're a community of souls, which we're still trying to get. We're still trying to get to our thick heads. We're a community of souls. Once we finally realize the harmony and the nature of getting along here, then how much more so out there. But even those stumbling blocks here and those experiences here is all meant to be. It's all perfectly somehow meant to be for all the karma of all the souls involved, for all the development. But I think the thirst for what's next is becoming much more rapidly in the forefront, and it'll be a public thing, no longer just, alternative media or each person on their own time with their own study, but it should be a global public understanding that we want to get there, and this will be coming faster and faster, hopefully. Well, I've said enough. I've said this in other videos too, but I just want to keep I want to put some emphasis on it, keep it alive, as it were, keep the torch going. Lots of videos on it. I'm hardly anyone, but there's lots of lots of videos on it. But yeah, weigh and compare, see where the heart gets more free, the mind gets more free. Connect those dots, put the pictures together, see the similarities, look at the contradictions, and when there's contradictions, consider the sources. Who is saying what? Where did that come from? Where did that story come from? Is that person spiritually developed or not? Does the person have an ulterior motive somehow? Are they linked to an agency or a government or a cult or have some strange motive for some reason? We can look into many things, but the best of all, but that has to do with when you don't have your own experience. The best of all is your own experience, which can indeed be had. I promise it. And with it, greater clarity, greater truth, less cessation, the cessation of confusion and doubt. And all the fears being put to sleep. And then we'll be in a wonderful position to know, not to believe or disbelieve, but to know. And to know, and I can say it, but I want everyone to experience, to know that the truth of it all is very good. When you understand the vastness of mind and the vastness of being, the potentials that are out there in many planets, many worlds, but still it is all one, and the innate realities are all very similar, all potentially available at any time. Peace and love be with you, and I hope you're having a good one. Talk to you soon. Thank you.